Hi, today's film is about the boat trip you can take from Bridlington Harbour in Yorkshire and go and photograph the Gannets on the water underneath Benton Cliffs. I made a YouTube film on this last year, but I'm repeating it in 2022, so I've just come back from there. And I'll list in the description underneath the video the website of Steve Race. There are several companies that do this as a commercial trip, but Steve Race I think is the main one. He does several trips a year, so I'll put his website. You can go out with him, or you can book it direct with a boatman. It's the same boatman, exactly the same trip, but you can just book direct. You've got to get a group together to do that, and that's my preferred way of doing it, because I can have a smaller group and a bit more elbow room on the boat and do it for more or less the same price as well. I don't normally have problems getting a group together. It's always been important to me to know other wildlife photographers. I've been doing this for 50 odd years now, and almost all of my friends are wildlife photographers. So I'll just list some of the organisations you can be a member of to be able to get to know other wildlife photographers. We'll start with the Royal Photographic Society. They have a nature group. The last time I looked, it was just under 1,000 members in that nature group. I think if you're going to be a member of it, you really need to participate in the events that they organise. That's the only way you're going to get to meet people. It's quite a big group, 1,000 people, so you've got to participate to get to know people. I'm also a member of the Nature Photographers Portfolio. That will be far less well known. It's a much smaller group. They have a cap on the membership. It's around 60 or 70, I can't remember exactly. And the idea of that cap is you keep it small, you do get to know each other. So I've been a member of that for more than 30 years now. It started in 1944 as a postal portfolio. So they were posting prints around the country. They still do that, but there's also a digital section too, which is like an online forum. But you have to be a member to be able to access that forum. Another group is the Zoological Photographic Club, the ZPC. They've been going since 1899. That's amazing. How can a camera club on wildlife photography have been going for that long? Incredible. That is just a print portfolio. They only circulate prints around the country, so you'd have to be a print worker to join them. And they have an even smaller cap, 28 members maximum. There's also a Nature Print Society, of which I don't know too much about, and I couldn't find a website for them, but I know many of the members, I've met them, and the four organisations that I've just mentioned, they have had joint conventions in the past where we all get together. It wasn't until quite recent times that I realised that almost everybody I've ever travelled with was a member of either the ZPC or the NPP. So I guess most of my friends are a member of one or the other. So this is Bridlington Harbour. The boatman typically goes out about 5 o'clock in the morning, and this year's group is made up of either members of the Nature Photographers Portfolio or one ex-member. You might think when you first get on the boat there's plenty of room for 12 photographers. Well, there is when you're all round both edges, but of course once the action starts you tend to move over to one side of the boat, and then it gets a bit more crowded. If it's a sunny day, you're going to get the best of the light because you're going out early. But this year we had 3 trips and it wasn't sunny every day. I was using the OM1 camera body with the 150 to 400mm lens. Notice the boat is rocking a bit. It wasn't like this every day, but it's very difficult to get straight horizons when this is happening. We'll just look at a few stills pictures, big flocks of guillemots, the odd razorbill amongst them. Not many fulmars this year, we had a lot more last year, and hardly any kittiwakes came close to the boat. I think it was the second day we started to see birds with fish, or see auks with fish rather. So this suggests that the young have now hatched and the parents are busy carrying in food. It's more difficult than normal to keep the bird in the frame because the boat is rocking about. It's usually easier if a bird's on the water and just taking off into flight, because at least you can pick up on the bird in the first place. So this bird has just launched into the air. This was early in the day and it was still very dull. The ISO is 3200 to give me a shutter speed of 2000ths of a second. It's amazing what you can do with modern cameras. A few years ago you couldn't really have attempted this picture. It was far too dull. This is a lot more difficult to do because the bird's already up in the air. You're just looking to your left, looking to your right, trying to spot a bird coming towards you, and then trying to pick it up in the viewfinder from a swaying boat. It's not easy, and you're typically on the boat for 5 to 6 hours, and after 6 hours of doing that, your arms are very tired. Shutter speed needs to be at least 2,500th of a second. I'd be aiming for here. And a razor bill with a fish. Far less razor bills and guillemots to photograph. And very important with a razor bill to have some sort of catch light in the eye. The main bird you're photographing is the gannet. These are the ones that come in great numbers. When there are so many birds, it's difficult to do individual shots. So you start off giving that a go, but then very quickly you swap over to using a wide angled lens. I was using the Olympus 12 to 40mm zoom, and I was zooming from one end to the other and taking pictures at the SH2 mode, so that's 50 frames per second, but not always with continuous focus. Sometimes I went to manual focus, and you've got lots of depth of field when you've got the 12mm end of the lens. And it's nice to get the camera low down to the water. So here we're leaning over the boat. You've got the rear screen out to the side, so you're using that to look at your picture. And ideally you'd have a strap on the camera around your neck, but I only had one camera strap with me and was reluctant to move that off the 150 to 400mm lens. But it's lovely to do these birds in slow motion as they're diving into the water. I did some of the video using the OM1 camera, but I'd also got with me the Panasonic GH6, which I've just recently bought. Don't ask me any questions about it because I'm far from used to it yet. But some of the video was taken with that. It's always got this fantastic reputation for its video, so my intention is to take stills photographs with the OM system and my video work with the GH6 because they both use the same lenses. But I've got a big learning curve coming up yet to work out how to use the GH6. But it's very dramatic watching these birds dive into the water right next to the boat. Now I did have a problem with dust on the sensor with the OM1 camera, but as soon as I saw it I simply switched the camera off and I switched it back on again and that dust disappeared. It's one of the great features of OM cameras, or what was Olympus cameras. They do seem to have solved the dust issue. It's very rare to get dust in the first place. The other thing you have to watch is water droplets on the front of the lens. You'll see one just appeared then, so every 30 seconds or so you haul the camera back into the boat, wipe the front of the lens clean and then put it back out close to the water again. But then I noticed I got 2 dust spots on the GH6 camera. I switched it off, I switched it back on, it made no difference. I got a blower brush and I puffed at it, it made no difference. There's the one. The other dust spot is off to the left and it's covered by the cliff at the moment, but if you watch the cliff in the left hand lower corner, as the cliff goes down the dust spot appears, and I just couldn't get rid of them. And even when I got back to the hotel room, it took a lot of effort to get those dust spots removed. Now let's look at that clip again, and this time I've tried to get rid of the dust spot by using a bit of masking. I've only tackled the right hand one, and at times you can't see that dust spot, but you can see the masking, and it comes and goes a little bit depending on the colour I've got in the sky. So it can be done, but it's very fiddly, and I've just done it once for the entire clip, which is why you can see that masking coming and going. You've got to get the colour right, so you'd have to do it sort of just a few frames at a time. Very, very fiddly. Normally I get a dust spot, I just delete the video. So we'll look at a few more stills pictures of the Gannets. Bear in mind now these are taken at 50 frames per second, so you can see the bird hardly moves at all between each frame. I've had several people comment to me that it must take hours to do all the editing. No, it doesn't. If you're using the right software, it's very quick. I've had to abandon using Breeze Browser, which has always been my favourite editing software, because it's just not working with the OM1. Hopefully Breeze Browser will be updated at some point, so it does. So I'm using Photo Mechanic at the moment, and it's an hour at work to get rid of the bulk of the pictures. It really doesn't take that long if you've got the right software. You can see the bird hardly moves between frames. Thanks for watching.